Hello, welcome to the United Community Channel. Welcome back to another episode of the United Community Podcast. And as always, we've got an awful lot to talk about. It's been a busy week for anybody who's following the podcast. Obviously, it's been 7 days because that's how long is in a week since our last episode. And we've got plenty to talk about, as always, guys. We're going to talk about, of course, the striker situation at Manchester United and who we're potentially looking at bringing in the summer. Cunha versus Gyökeres versus Osimhen versus Delap. We're going to talk about them all. We're going to talk about the number 10s as well. We've got a few names on the list that Manchester United are potentially looking at and how we can improve that position for next season. Who are our number 10s going to be? We're going to talk a little bit about players already there. Bruno Fernandes, where's his best position? We're going to talk about Garnacho. We're going to talk about sales. We've got so much to talk about, as always, guys. But as always, please do smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new to the YouTube channel. If you are listening back on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review. All of that good stuff. And as always, we've got Chris, we've got Ben, and we've got Osimhen, the OGs of the United Community Channel, on with us. But yeah, let's jump straight into it. Chris, I'll let you rock and roll because we got some some good feedback on you kind of leading the podcast last week. And I'm happy to take a back seat and just answer some questions more so than ask them. But off we go. Let's get straight into it. What are we talking about?
I mean, I think we need to start off with the hot topic right now. It's, the striker position. What are we going to do there? Is it going to be Gyökeres? Is it going to be Osimhen? Is it going to be Delap? I mean, I guess you can throw Cunha in there. I don't know if I don't consider him a striker. I mean, he can play there. So, I mean, I think that he's better served as a 10 myself. So I think we kind of take the big three. And then as the red hot takes, if we want to throw in there what Thumbs was talking about with Lautaro Martinez, we can throw him in there too. I don't know how realistic that one is, though. I mean, I don't know if he's going to leave, or I'm not really in love with the 5'9" striker. That's just me. I mean, I think Ronaldinho is about that size, so maybe he likes that, But I think I like Martinez. He's a good player, but I don't know if we've ever been linked to him or. If that's even a possibility at that point.
Yeah, well, let's put it to you then. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of talk over the last week or so, and the main one has been Liam Delap. And obviously, we spoke about it last night on Red Hot Takes as well with Adam, and want to get your input on it. And I obviously mentioned that it was a little bit underwhelming if we do end up with him. But again, there are some arguments being put back there, on social media to me about, the potential that he may have and the age that he is, and maybe I suppose the yes or no sir, 3 bags full sir that he would be to maybe Ruben Amram in terms of being able to mold him into what he wants. But let's go to Osimhen first. I mean, Osimhen, what's your thoughts on the whole striker situation and Liam Delap specifically?
I have a weird take on Liam Delap. I think Liam Delap is what we get every October around the budget time. Let's just drip some stuff out there, see what the reaction is amongst people. Yeah, I think they're flying a kite with Delap here. I think they want to see, okay, realistically, he could be an option, or he's in the price range that's going to be an option. So let's just put a name out there, gauge what the reaction is going to be in the fans' mindset, and then take it back there to the board level and say, right, they don't want Delap. Delap is not what the fans want. Okay, but who's in the 40 million price range that we can get? I said it last week. Our transfer window this year is solely based on us getting to the European final and getting into the Champions League. We will lose out on 80 million if we don't get to the Champions League. That's a lot of money. And I think that's why the board are dropping these kind of names out there.
Yeah.
They're letting us know, be realistic. May not be Delap, but it may be someone in that price range. Maybe someone that we've never heard of before. But I think that's why Delap's being mentioned. If I had... Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, do you think that maybe this is, United doing what happened to us an awful lot over the last 10 years, where we're maybe using Delap to put pressure on the likes of Napoli or the likes of Sporting to say, okay, no, wait now, we'll come back to the table here.
I don't think Napoli give a fiddler's elbow about United's transfer policy. You know, they'll
Or
want us to
maybe,
come in with,
would it be a fairer point to say that it might put pressure on the players then maybe to go, oh, well, they'll move on from me if I don't lower wages or expectation or whatever the case may be?
no, I mean, I said it last week. This is probably Osimhen's first big kind of contract. He's going to be looking for big money. He's going to be looking for at least Champions League. Well, no, we say he's going to be looking at least European football. And probably one of the top two. He's not going to play for conference. He's not going to play conference league next year. He's probably not going to play Europa League. He's going to want Champions League. He's 25, 26. He's coming into the prime of his career.
Yeah.
I think he is going to move on from Napoli, but he's not going to come to United unless we're going to pay the wages that he's looking for, which is what, 180 after tax, so 330, 340 pounds.
Rashford wages at that point.
Yeah.
And Ineos have said we're not paying those kind of wages anymore. And that was one of the first things that Ineos came out and I liked and heard and really wanted to, but they're not going to pay those wages anymore. Because we can't afford to pay those wages anymore.
Yeah,
we can't afford to pay them anymore.
And I do think over if trying to rein in the transfer budget, you can't go out and give one player that type of money, because like the trickle down effect from Sanchez, everyone is going to want it then who's playing well. What's Bruno Fernandes going to say?
He was the first thing that was going to come into my head. If Osimhen comes in for 340, Bruno's first thing in the morning, his agent's knocking on the door. Hey, Omar, I want 440. Don't forget what Bruno's done the last few years. He's kept you going. He's kept you taking over. Where would you be without him? He's at least 440, 450. Yeah. And it's going to have that. And then if Osimhen signs and we're paying 350, then the next person coming in is going to say, well, Osimhen's getting 350. I'm not Osimhen, but I want at least six figures. I want 125 or 130.
Yeah.
And
well, let me play devil's advocate a little bit here with you then. If you're saying that Napoli and Gyökeres and Sporting don't really care about United's transfer policy, do you think equally that maybe Ineos don't really give a toddlers what the fan base thinks? If they want to go for someone like Delap, they're going to go for them.
No, I think that Ratcliffe and this board are really kind of they're really kind of hearing what the fans are saying. I believe, I can see Chris is nodding in agreement with you, but I believe that this board are going to listen to the fans. They're not going to stop their policy just because the four of us say it's wrong. But what I'm saying is, I don't think the lap is who they're going to go with. It might be something in that price range. They're just saying, look, let's be realistic, guys. We're probably not going to be playing European football next year. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we are playing it, but it's going to take a serious result over the next 5 games, But they're just getting us ready. They're just cushioning us for that fall from the Osimhens and the Gyökeres down to a Delap or a Calvert-Lewin or a Chris Wood or one of these kind of guys.
Don't do that.
Right, well, go on, Chris, because you're shaking your head there that you obviously think differently to Oisín, and that Ineos kind of are going to go hell blazing regardless of what the fans think.
I think they will, to be honest with you, because I think it's going to be budgetary, and I think Oisín's right when it says if we get Champions League football, the window is completely different. I think the window changes completely different. So, and I read, and maybe I'm wrong. I read it and I saw it that if Ipswich gets relegated, Delap's release clause goes down to 30 million, not 40. And I'll be honest, like at 30 million, I don't mind that, because I looked at Delap a little bit this morning and everything. And I have one of the topics is what's the difference between him and Rasmus Højlund, and everything like that. Because everybody says they're basically the same player. I think Delap's better because his runs off the ball are so much better. He's so much more active. He's always moving. He's always doing something. The problem with Højlund right now, in my mind, is that he's so stationary. You can't find him. And Adam made a good point last night. He doesn't check in for the ball. It's like he doesn't. Yeah, I know. Adam's gonna be laughing if he ever listens to us, but it's just that he doesn't check into the ball. It doesn't seem like he wants the ball. He doesn't make movements. And we've talked about this before. One movement opens up another lane for someone else. Well, if you just stand stationary, you're in trouble. So, I mean, I do like, and I'll change my stance a little bit. I do like the Lap in the fact that at 30 million, I think he's better than Rasmus. Now, if he's our number one option, I don't like that. I still think that we need to go for a proven striker. And Jack, you brought this up is like, and what we were talking about before is like, what do you pay for a 30-goal scorer? Let's say not 30, but a 20-plus goal scorer. What's the going rate for that? I mean, do I think, what is it, before taxes, it's 345, let's just say 350. That's a little excessive for me, to be honest. I think we can negotiate that down. If we can't, then maybe you do walk, because I do think that they're not going to sign someone that's going to want 340, 350 unproven in the Prem. If you're talking about a Harry Kane the contract before he signed with Spurs again, maybe you do pay that 350 at that point, because he's Premier League proven, and everything like that. Where Osimhen, he's not, and that's my issue. Is like, of all the strikers that we're looking at, only Delap's Premier League proven, which, to be honest, he's not proven a whole lot. Like, let's just be 12 goals.
Yeah.
12 goals for a below average team, let's be honest, because they're going to get relegated. But I mean, so it's my problem is right now is when you look at the three names that we have, you have Gyökeres, fantastic, but he's not Premier League proven. His wages are, from what I've read, wage demands are way lower than Osimhen's wage demands are. You have Osimhen, wage demands high, not Premier League proven, fantastic striker and everything. Read a little bit of his attitude. Maybe that changes because maybe he's just unhappy in Napoli and maybe they treated him wrong. You don't know.
Yeah, I think the majority of that was the fact that he sacked his team around him at the end of last summer because they didn't get him a move and he had to go to Turkey on loan.
Yeah. And then you have Delap that, we all know what Liam Delap is, but it's like we have someone that's really young, that's really young and unproven, and we have a Galactico where, like you're paying big money for someone. We don't really have someone in between. And maybe that's why they throw in Matthias Cunha, but he's not a striker in my mind. He really isn't. So, I mean, I just think that ultimately Oisin's right in the fact that it depends on Champions League. But if we don't get Champions League, we're going to end up with someone like Delap. Yeah. And at 30 million, I mean, I can't complain about that deal. If you're talking 40 plus, I'm a little bit, I don't know.
It's all about balancing the transfer window as well as we possibly can, isn't it? In terms of not sinking too much money into one position and so on and so forth. But Ben, want to get your kind of thoughts on Delap as well before we move on. I mean, is it an underwhelming kind of signing, or I suppose it all does come down to Europa League or Champions League football, but is it something you'd be happy with seeing him come in? I mean, a big argument is, look, he scored 12 goals in a team that doesn't create an awful lot. If you put Bruno Fernandes behind him or somebody like that at Manchester United, albeit the pressure is a lot higher to score, that potentially he could come in and score more goals. Would you? How are you viewing it?
Yeah, Delap for me, he's a no to come in unless Højlund goes.
Yeah.
But it seems that Osimhen talks it on about with his money. If he's that confident, big striker coming in, why not just give him a goal bonus? Give him a low wage and say, if you score over 20 goals, we'll give you X, Y, and Z for getting that.
Yeah, and we've spoken about that, haven't we, in the last couple of weeks, where they're trying to get away from giving high wages and then lowering him if you don't get to the Champions League, and kind of leaning towards giving base salaries with high incentives to perform. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, it's up to Osimhen if he wants to come. Just offer him a contract to say, we'll pay you this. If you think you're going to get more than 20 goals a season, we'll give you that once you've got him.
Yeah. And I do think it as well, and I mentioned it today, that it is a strikers market this summer, and they hold all the power, the strikers themselves, because so many teams are looking to improve that area of their team this summer. And I do think they can demand what they want, and that doesn't suit Manchester United, in the summer window.
I mean, I look at it, and I mean, you could go into the next topic with that. Is we can talk about the 10s, which is just as important as a striker. Is that do we go after an Osimhen because do we think we're one player away? I don't. And do you spend the budget on something like that with the wage bill? The wage budget plus he's what, like 55? Is it 55 million euros or pounds? One of the two. I think it's euros.
Pounds. I think
is it pounds. Okay, so then he's around 60. And then Gyökeres is around 60. With his release clause and everything. The one thing I can say is we do have both clubs. Napoli we have a good rapport with because McTominay and everything like that, and then we've always had a good rapport with Sporting, and everything like that. So, maybe you can finagle something that's a little bit better than what is reported out there as far as the money. But then, I mean, so because that leads me into do you spend less on it? You go after a Liam Delap, and then do you spend more on a Matthias Cunha, or do you go after another number 10? Because like what everybody's been talking about, Amarin likes players that play multiple positions. It gives you options. So do you go after a Cunha? Do you go after a Trincao, a Cherky, a Semenyo? Those type of players. What's more important, the striker or the 10s? And that leads to another topic. Where's Bruno's best position? Next to Ugarte or up at the 10? It's always nice to have options. I get it. But, how do you build your team? So if you go after strikers, that means Bruno's going to play a 10, and then you only need another number 10 because it's where's, like you said, Jack, where's the balance?
Where's the balance? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And well, look, let's jump onto it and talk about the number 10s then. And we can start with Bruno before we get on about onto, potentially who could come in that position. But I mean, Oisín, do you see Bruno Fernandes as that number 10 or as a number 6 or, where, because he has been moved around an awful lot. And, I think some of the frustrating things about this season has been, we need Bruno to take it off the back four. We also need Bruno in the 10 to create. We also need him getting on to the end of the chances that he's creating so he can put the ball in the net. We need him on free kicks. We need him on throws. We need him on kickouts.
He needs to save the ball because Onana can't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, where do you see Bruno fitting in? Let's say we do get the transfer window that we all hope, a new striker, maybe a new number 10. Where do you see Bruno fitting in next season?
I think this season, above all seasons, Bruno's best games have come from him playing in the number 8. I think when he goes to number 10, he goes missing. He drifts out to the wings. He gets in the way of the wing backs. He doesn't overlap. He doesn't underlap. He just kind of hangs out there. But when he's played in the number 8, beside Ugarte or Casemiro, he's taking the ball from them and he's been able to create from there. But that opens up, as you said, who plays in the 10s? Garnacho, I don't think he's good enough. Rashford, if he comes back from Villa, revigorated, no. Can Manu play up there? Maybe he could be an option. I don't think he has the pace though to be a number 10, a real top class Premier League number 10. That leaves Diallo, who has proven so far this year that he's our first choice right wing back. I think
that's Bruno's heat map as well, by the way.
That's Bruno's heat map.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's proving your point, Oisín, where he tends to just drift everywhere.
Yeah. But I think that United next year, we're going to see a lot more structure from them. I think when Aaron gets them in preseason and gets them nailed down, we won't see as much drifting. I mean, I know that there were some conversations today in a certain group chat about systems and stuff, but I think that's the way football has gone. The first thing a manager is asked when they come to a club is what's your system, what's your style of play. The idea of just letting 11 lads go kick a ball around, even at Sunday League street level, is gone. Managers now have to come and kind of get their style of play down. So I think Bruno next year, we'll see a different Bruno. And I think we'll see him in the number 8 with Ugarte. And I think we'll see a lot more of him linking back to front. But I don't know who the front three will be. And with the financial situation, I don't know what quality of a front three will be. And that's where I am with it. I think Bruno is number 8. I think that's where we're going to see him for the foreseeable. He's getting that bit older too, so the legs are going to start going, so he will drop back. But I think the 8 is the best for him that I've seen this season.
Yeah. Ben, I mean, how do you see Bruno? Obviously, he's going to be pivotal to how Ruben Amorim wants to play going forward. And I do think he's going to have to structure his game a little bit more. But would you agree with Oisín on where potentially he could play next season?
Yeah, a bit deeper for me, for definite. Like I say, I think it's important we won't get a decent number 10 in, because I think Bruno's best position is number 10. But for the team that we've got, for the team, he's better off sitting in the 6 or the 8.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when it's down to versatility again, there's not to say that he can't go up into the number 10.
Yeah, and I mean, Chris, I think like what Oisín is saying there, when we do get players in, and I think we will see a lot more structure to how Ruben Amorim is playing, I do think there will be it'll be a little bit more dynamic as well, where you mightn't just have 2 6s, 2 10s. You could have your 2 6s, an 8, a 10, wide players coming around, once we get to know his system. And, a lot of people have said about Amorim's system at Sporting that it was actually very fluid, even though it was a very regimented system. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that, because like in our chat that we had earlier today and stuff like that, my pushback is that it's regimented when it comes to defense and pressing and everything like that. But I think Amorim really wants to have a fluid system where your 6s and your 10s can kind of go in between and you can flow. But you just have to remember that you have to get back to your spot. You can't let your guys, you can't hang them out to dry. And, and that's the one thing we've always said about Bruno. He never stops running. So even if he floats forward from a 6 or an 8 spot into a 10 at the top of the box or to do something, he's going to get back, and he's going to be in the right position. And I think, and I agree with Oisín, I think he's, whether you want to call it another number 6 or another number 8, I think he's a better deep line playmaker than he is a strict number 10. Now, I say that with regards to, we're kind of jaded, and when we look at Bruno, because like you said, Jack, you alluded to, we've asked him to do so much. And nobody really knows where his best position for us is because we ask him to do so much. So my pushback is, okay, if we had 2 better number 6s that were stout, like two Ugartes that could play there and be more of a deep line playmaker, would that free him up to be a little bit more fluid at the number 10, which I think could be possible. It's just really where we want to go and what balance we have in the transfer window. With what we have right now, I think he's best served as a 6 or an 8 in being a deep line playmaker. And I would say going after, and I agree with Oisín, Garnacho's not good enough right now to be a starting number 10. I'm not saying he's not good enough to play. I'm just saying as a starter, he's not good enough. If you want to make him a super sub, come in at the 60-minute mark like all managers do now, you sub at 60 minutes or 55 or somewhere in there, then bring him in and stuff. And can he start a couple games here and there? Yes, of course. He can do that. But out and out starting number 10, no, he's not, because his decision-making is not there. And I think where we watched the game against City and even against Forest and stuff, when we did have opportunities, the problem is that he's so indecisive that it stops other players from doing things because they don't know where. There's no fluidity. It's like if we all played together, where, okay, Jack's going to make this run, Oisín's going to be here, Ben's going to be there. You have an idea.
I'm not running. I'm not running.
But we all know where everybody's going to be. And that's the part of being the team where you really don't know what Garnacho is going to do. All of a sudden, he's taking a shot from 25 yards out, and everybody's like, why are you doing that? And the next time, he doesn't take the shot from 25 yards out, and he's waiting to pass. And everybody's like, put the ball through. Just do something. Make it happen. And just watching the Villa game right now, when Rashford played a nice through ball to Tielemans that he played it across, Garnacho would still be holding the ball, waiting for him to make the complete run before he plays the ball. And that's the difference. And I think that's where that's where he's lacking at this moment. I'm not saying he's not good at, he can play, but that's where I think we're lacking. And I think as we look at number 10s, that leads us in. We're going to get the comments, but the kid that we're going to play against on Thursday, they're only asking it's less than 30 million euros for the kid, and he's 21, and he's playing. If you look at his stats, you pull up his stats, Jack. They're green everywhere.
Yeah.
Turkey's stats are green everywhere. And I was looking at it. You can compare him to Cole Palmer. He's right there with Cole Palmer as a player. Now, is he as good? But
French league versus Premier League as well.
I get it, but here's the thing: like when Cole Palmer got sent to Chelsea, nobody thought he was that.
Yeah,
and he didn't. And Cole Palmer wasn't playing regular for City anyway, so he came in and Tony. There it is. But I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, not even him, but Matthias Cunha. Like, I like Matthias Cunha. I'm not sure I love the price tag.
Yeah, 63 million.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty steep, and that's one of those questions that like earlier I had. Are we that one player away that you're going to spend 63 million on that guy? Like that's a tough pill to swallow.
Well, I think that's where United are going to have to get very clever in. What was there? Was it Ugarte's release clause? There was a release clause, or maybe Yoro's release clause that we triggered last summer. But we actually paid more than the release clause, but staggered it over more years in terms of a payment.
Of course. And I mean, if we get creative like that, then I'm okay. But I mean, we can talk numbers and stuff like that, but it's like, all right, if it's 63 million and we end up paying 70, but it's 15 million over 4 years, then okay, I get it. But, that's when you hope that the board can get it right and not, have to dump all of our money into one player. I mean, and the other guy that we're talking about that's primarily proven, that is Semenyo. He's going to come a lot cheaper than Cunha.
Yeah.
And he's primarily proven, very good player, can play across the front line.
One of the kind of real standout points for me with Cunha, and I don't know if any of you agree with me, is that he is a bit of a head case. And he is a bit of a, we used the word, maverick earlier on, but maybe in a different way where, he might get sent off every now and again, and he might tell a lad to go fuck himself, while the camera is on him. And I like that. And I think we've been missing that for fucking far too long.
It's passion. He has the passion, and he knows what he wants, and he's not afraid to voice it. And I agree with you on that one, Jack. I don't mind that about him because I got to be honest, most of the time he's probably right. It's like, but you want the guy that wants to, like we were talking earlier, you want the guy that wants the ball. You want the guy that wants to make the play. You don't want the guy that's going to hide and be like, oh, it's his fault, or I didn't do that, or you didn't do this. No, he's going to be in the mix. Yeah.
Well. Let me throw this one to you, Oisín. If we're talking about reinvigorating that number 10 position again in the summer, do you think? And we spoke about maybe Ineos being cutthroat and not really caring about what people think, or do they? Do you think maybe they could potentially go right if Napoli come back in for Garnacho and the price is right? Let's go. Take him. Take the pure profit and let's go out and sign a number 10 that can fit the system better.
I think that's going to happen. I think, and not just with Garnacho. I mean, it's a topic we're going to touch on later on, is about outgoings and incomings.
Yeah.
But I think Garnacho is definitely one of the ones who could go, and we could. What I want United to do this year in their transfer window is to improve on who we get rid of.
Yeah.
And as Garnacho is a United player, I love him. I'll support them. Is he good enough for United? I don't think so. But I will support him as long as he's wearing the red jersey. But I don't know if he's the right fit for United in the number 10 for what we need, or if he's as good as what he thinks he is in his own head. So I think he'd be one of the first out the door for me if I was on Denis's board. Napoli come in with what is he, 50 million? Yeah, thank you so much. Out the door.
Yeah.
Do you want to hand bring him to the airport? I'll drop him to the front door, But then as long as we replace him with someone who's going to improve the team, not just get the next Maverick or someone who's going to cause, ructions, but someone who slots into the system, because we have to back this manager. We just have to.
Well, that was going to be my next point. all of these things that we're talking about getting in very, very specific players needs to mean or needs to lead to Amram getting a hell of a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point going out and getting Amram the players that he. Now, we spoke with this last week. How much say will Amram have in the players that comes in? It's going to be transferred by committee. I don't agree with that. I mean, look, we all know what my username is on here. You know, I believe the manager should have most control in the transfers because he's going to be working with them on a day in, day out. But now you've got directors of football, you've got footballing styles and whatever. But as long as the players they come in work for Amram and we start setting up, okay, we likened ourselves last year to Brighton as a setting club. Yeah. But if you look from Potter on for the couple of managers, there's continuity. You know, they're still playing the same kind of football. They work well as a team. And that's what we need to set up at United. We haven't had that for a while. And the players that do come in, they have to suit Amram. They can't just go out and buy, we're not going to anyway, but buy names. But they have to allow Amram then the time to work with them and get them right and push us on.
Yeah. Well, you're all in complete agreement with that. I can see by how you're nodding, but let's talk about maybe the outgoings then, you know, because, you know, we're talking about potentially a lot of players that could leave or a lot of players that have been tipped. Now, look, I mean, I think United this summer, you know, like every normal summer, we're linked with every player and their grandmother. I think every player at United and their grandmother is going to be potentially tipped to leave. You know, we're talking Rashford, Sancho, Anthony already on loan. Xerxes only in the door. Garnacho, Menu, Casemiro, you know, so on and so forth. I mean, Chris, give us a kind of an overview on what you think is, and we said last week, didn't we, that we need to trust the board, not just with buys, but with sales as well. What do you think needs to be done, and how cutthroat do you think it needs to be?
Oh, I think we're all in agreement. It needs to be very cutthroat. I mean, now, how cutthroat can they be is another question, because how cutthroat can they be with a Casemiro? Like, let's be honest, he's been playing well as of late, you know, but is he worth, what is it, $350,000 a week? Like, no, like we all know that. But again, you know, is it, you know, can we get rid of him? I don't know. You know, I'd have to do a lot more research on that and how they're going to get rid of him. But I think Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, possibly Xerxes will go, and I think Garnacho may go. You know, I mean, I think I agree with Osimhen that, you know, if someone comes in and gives 45 to 60 somewhere in there, I think you move them. I mean, I really do. I mean, and let's be honest. I know we'll get backlash if he goes to Italy and scores 15, 20 goals. Well, like you just said about, like, you know, you say about like the French league and Turkey and Osimhen, that's another league. You know, if he goes somewhere, and, you know, McTominay's played well for Napoli, but that's
Anthony.
Anthony's played well in La Liga. I mean, Garnacho would flourish in La Liga because he has so much time and space.
Yeah.
You know, and he doesn't have to make, you know, quick fire decisions and everything like that when everybody's on top of you. And I understand that. And I get that. And like I said, like, I'm not saying he's not good enough to play for United, but he's not good enough to start for United at number 10, game in and game out. So, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure he will ever be that player, because as a number 10, that's not his natural position.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the issue. Is I think we need to look at it, and Osimhen hit the nail on the head. Is like we gotta buy guys that, if you move someone out, buy someone that's going to fit the profile as a 10. You know, like Acuna that can play a 10. And if we need to make some subs or make some changes, he can go into a 9 because he's played that before. You know, not every game in and game out, but he can go across the front line. You know, and it gives you it's not as we say, specialist kind of role, you know, where he's Chris Wood is a striker and that's what he's going to do. He can't play anywhere else, you know, and everything like that. I think we need to be a little bit more fluid, you know, and that's why, like, you look at guys like, and a name that popped up was a kid from Sporting, Trincao, good player, but he can play a 10 and that's about it. Semenyo can play a little bit more across the front line. Now, is he going to be as good as Cunha? No, but Cunha's like the top of the list right there.
Do you think there's any specific position then outside of, I suppose, maybe the forward line, midfield? Because I think as a wing back, you need to be a wing back. As a centre back, you need to be a centre back, and of course a goalkeeper. But maybe in the forward positions, do you think there's any position there that Ruben Amorim will go, like say Trincao, for example? No, he's a number 10. I want a specific number 10 that doesn't do anything else. Or do you think, 2 6s, 2 10s, and a striker are all going to be interchangeable?
No, I think it's again, we're going to use the term a lot. I think it's a healthy balance, because I think, do you need a strict number 10? I think you do need one strict number 10 that can play that role and can be there. Do I think that then the other guys that you have that can play can move across the front line and do that? Yes, but I think you really need to have, as we say, a solid spine, a solid core, where you have your 6, you have your 8, you have your 10, and you have your 9, and you have your center back. You got to have guys that's in your spine, and then you can fill in guys accordingly that, like with an Ahmad that can play wing back. Well, maybe in a certain game, then if we keep Delo, which, to be honest, I think he's an outgoing in my mind. I think we sell him because he's basically pure profit at this point. We've had him for so long that I think you move him, and whether we get 35, let's just say we get 35 for him, that's 35 we can spend on someone else that, he doesn't really fit our system. So it's better to let him go, because we have enough defenders that I think we can, with your Heavens and your Mazraouis and your Delicts, and we're going to keep Maguire for another year, which is fine, and your Euros and stuff like that. I think we have enough. And then you can, whether you spend that money on another wing back or what you want to do, I think Delo is a name that no one's talking about that I think could possibly go and could make money for us that we could reinvest into something. Because then, like you said, you have your Ahmad that can play wing back and also play a 10. So depending on who you play against, you can move around and everything like that. Because everybody forgets, I think Mazraoui can play a right wing back better than Delo can play a right wing back.
Mazraoui can play it better at number 10 than a lot of fucking lads that play in that position at the moment for us, and he only played one game.
Because Mazraoui was a right back, and we just ended up like Bruno. He's been playing across all the positions because where we need him, he plays. So you tend to forget where his best position is, which is on the right side.
If I walked out into that sitting room now and Mazraoui was wiring a plug, I go, he's going to do a good job at that. Yeah, he's going to do a good job at that. You know what I mean? He's just an all-rounder. You know what I mean? Yeah. Ben, I'll ask you specifically. I mean, how much do you think, realistically we can generate in terms of outgoings? If you're talking Rashford, Sancho, Anthony on permanent deals, Delo, Xerxes, if we're talking about big outgoings like that, surely there can be some big fees that, well, not big fees, but collectively a big fee that comes in for them.
Yeah, of course there is. Same as that though, with these signings on about players getting in. We want to see a couple of the 15 million signings coming in again like Mazraoui, don't we? I think it's just down to what they want. If they want a top class striker, they won't get the striker and say, right, we want him, and he says no. Right, who's top of the number 10? Let's try and get the top number 10. Just work your way through the list. But if you're going to sell players, you've got to be 100 million at least, innit?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I did some quick math, and I'm looking at, you're going to be around 110 if you get minimums for guys.
Yeah.
American math or
Irish math. If you just run through it, you get 4. Let's just say you get 40 million for Rashford. You get
25 for Sancho.
You get 25 for Sancho, so that's 65.
30 million for Anthony.
You get 30 million for Anthony. That's 95, and you get 35 for Delo.
Yeah, that's 125, Chris. I'll tell you what it is. Don't worry.
What's that?
I said that was 125. I'll tell you what it adds up to.
No, but I'm just saying, like 110 minimum. I mean, I think it's.
Yeah.
But again, that's why we need to be ruthless, because as much as Diogo Dalot has played well for us and done a job for us, he doesn't fit the system. And if he's pure profit, move him on.
Yeah.
I mean, even help him, move him somewhere that he's going to play consistently and he'll be happy. And I mean, he's been a great steward for United. I mean, he's been there whenever we need him. He was our best player last year. He's been down a little bit this year, but he went and played left wing back because we needed him to.
Exactly.
He plays right wing back. I mean, he's and everybody wants to give him stick minus 10,000 and everything like that. But like, I mean, he's trying to do a job for us.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I know, and I have to say he's been very professional as well. In fairness to him, Oisín, I give you last word on outgoings. You know, because obviously we have to get the balance right. We can't just talk about going out and selling, 6 players in the first 3 weeks of the transfer window, because you've then got to replace them. But where do you find the balance coming in? Is it as simple as one out, one in, or I'm sure there'll be, well, I think this is where future planning comes into place. But obviously, there's going to have to be quite significant sales in the summer.
Well, I mean, I wrote the list that Chris put up in the agenda for tonight. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players down there. We're also losing 4 players straight off the bat. Heaton, Eriksson, Lindelof, and Evans are gone. Okay, Heaton has never played a competitive game for United, has he? So you can discount him.
He did. No, he played.
He did. League Cup, was it?
That's right. Yeah.
So I mean, but you discount him, but that's 3 squad players that we're losing straight off the bat who have to be replaced just to fill the squad numbers. Then you have to look below that again. I agree with Chris. Dalot is on my list to go out. I also have Højlund, Onana, and Maguire. Do you give Maguire the extra year, or do you cash in him now while you can?
Well, is he? Oh no, we've got.
Had they triggered it? Definitely.
They had triggered it already. I think they had to do it before the end of January, I think.
Okay, so that's that point moot then. But you can still have Højlund, Onana, and Dalot as possible outgoings.
Yeah, and I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong. Oh yeah, Casemiro is there. Sorry, yeah, Casemiro is on that list.
Casemiro's contract runs out next year. Well, I did some sums as well, but I used a credible website and transfer market, Chris. I wasn't making numbers off the top of my head, I know your president is doing it at the moment, but we'll go with facts and figures here. We'll get it all right, okay? So what transfer market gave us in terms of the 7 players that we listed today is 247 million, which isn't a bad Arsenal if we can get those prices. They've got Rashford at 50, Sancho at 30, Anthony at 20, Xerxes 35, Manu 55.
Are they in euros, Oisín? Yeah.
They're euros.
Okay.
Garnacho 45 and Casemiro 12. So that's 247 million, which isn't a bad Arsenal if we can get that. Now, we're not going to sell all those 7 players. We're not. We're not going to sell Xerxes. We're not going to sell Manu. So, that's the bulk of that money taken out. That's 90 million come out of that already. So that's 150.
And Oisín, how much do you think we're actually going to maybe lean on the academy a little bit with some of the young players that we brought in the last maybe 12 or 18 months, like Sekou Kone, for example, or even Toby Collier a little bit more, and these types of players?
I was discussing this with my dad today, yesterday. Lifelong United fan, 63 years of age. He won't mind me saying that, but lifelong United fan. And we were discussing this whole, for me, myth of United heritage, United DNA, right? We have made 2 great teams out of youth players. 1950s with the Busby Babes and the early 90s with the class of 92. This whole idea of United having great youth teams constantly coming through is a myth, an absolute myth. We might have 1 or 2 players coming through. For all those players that came through, we've had more flunk out. Makeda, Obertan, Januzaj. All these players come to mind quicker than the guys who've made it. Obviously, outside of Scholes, Beckham, those kind of guys. But, Gillespie at that time flunked out. So Morrison. This whole idea... Who's that?
Well, wasn't Gillespie a make way to get Andy Cole in?
Yeah, he went to Newcastle, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if he was...
I played with Gillespie last year, lads. I won't have a bad word said about Keith Gillespie.
I'm not saying a bad word against him. I'm just being logical here. If he was in any way worth keeping, Ferguson would have kept him and would have found someone else for that Andy Cole gig. Do we bring United players? Do we bring the academy through? Yes, but not in the Premier League. Go back to the Ferguson style, blood them in the League Cup, because the next few years for United are going to be tough. It's going to be scrapping from mid-league, scrapping from mid-table, and we have to climb that table. And okay, some Liverpool guy said sometime in the 90s you win nothing with kids, but I believe that now because those kids were different. These kids are not to that level. So I don't think we'll be leaning on the academy as much as we think we will.
All right then. I
Is
think we'll
that
leave
too
it there.
logical?
No, that's you make a very good point. In fairness, and I like while you were saying that, I was kind of, when you're thinking of something while someone is talking, and I, the second part of everything you said, I didn't really listen to because I was going, think of a name, think of a name, think of a name, think of a name. But there actually isn't that many names. Like you could talk about Lingards and Pogba's, but how many of them have actually gone on and done it? You know what I mean? And while I do think United have, I would probably slightly disagree with you that I do think United's heritage and is around youth, and it is around obviously the academy plays a big part in that. I do agree. The chances of creating a whole team out of one underage, youth team is it happens. Well, it happens twice in a club's history, and that is not every club. You know what I mean? It's Man United pretty much standing on their own when it comes to that. But wasn't it? Was it Louis van Gaal who nearly broke that record of an academy player being in every match day squad since before World War II? And someone said to him, "Oh, hey, Louis, you got to put a fucking player in quick."
And that's where Rashford came from, wasn't it? That's how he came on the bench. That's how he came on and scored.
Was that what it was?
Yeah,
was it
I think so. I think Ocean's right about that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. Anyway, lads, look, we'll leave it there because I think we're after getting through an awful lot. We're nowhere closer to actually realizing or understanding who we're going to get or, what we actually need, because, I think it all comes down to the Europa League, really, doesn't it?
So what do we think on? What's our thoughts on Thursday, Jack?
I'm confident going into it. I have to say, I don't know. There's something about Europe this year, and maybe it's just a release from the drudgery of the Premier League and everything else domestic this season. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, tell me a game that we've been really bad in Europe this season. I don't think there has been one. Now we've thrown away a couple of leads, maybe, but I think on the off it's been positive. So I'm confident going into it. I'm looking forward to it. How about you?
I think so. I mean, I think we'll do well. I mean, I actually think we're going to win. I don't think we're going to draw. I mean, I think that, and I think I was reading that Leon had a big injury to one of their guys too, that he's not going to be available for this leg. And
do you know what I love as well? Sorry, and I meant to mention is this whole Andre Onana versus Nemanja Matic head-to-head, which is absolutely unbelievable as well. Yeah. I love it, and that's what you want to see. You know what I mean? The days of players going at each other in press conferences and stuff like that. And you can guarantee the two players that will be on the thumbnail tomorrow for every Man United fan channel for watch-alongs will be Nemanja Matic and Andre Onana, including mine. So
no, absolutely. I like it. And I just think that we can press and pressure, and, and I'm going to go out on a limb. I think we may see the best of Mason Mount.
Oh, PSG have just got a third goal with like 90 seconds to go.
Oh, did they? But I just think we're going to see the best of Mason Mount.
Yeah, and I'd be delighted to see him come back in and get involved, because I do think he's a player that could, slot into one of them number 10 spots as maybe as a rotation squad player. Who knows? Next season.
I mean,
I actually forgot he was at United in our number 10 discussion.
And it's mad to think that the number 7 jersey has just gone into non-existency nearly in the last decade.
But I think it's going to be a good game. But I think it may be a little nip and tuck. But I think we'll end up. I think we could jump out to a 2-0 lead, and then they may pull one back at that point. But I think we're going to do well. I mean, I think that Amarin's going to have enough time that he's going to be able to set things right. And they're not an overly fast team. They're not an overly, so, we have a little bit of trouble when we have to deal with pace, especially through the midfield, which they do not have. at that point, So I think it's in our defense, it has been stout. I mean, you can't say it hasn't. I mean, our defense is even against guys that we were like, we got to be careful with those guys.
Is the Leeds back tomorrow night though? Is it going to be Yarrow, Maguire?
Well, he wasn't in training today. I don't think I actually don't think he's travelled with the squad. I remember this. I seen the squad today, and I was going back three is probably going to be Maguire, Mazraoui, and Yarrow,
which I'm okay with.
Yeah, I'm okay with that as well. And you know what? I hope more than that else actually is I hope we just go out and give him a good fucking hammering, because I'm going to we've got tickets for the West Ham game, and we've got hotel football booked for that as well.
Neville guy.
Well, I had to try it out. You know what I mean? We were saying because we always stay in town.
You must have got a voucher from the Glazers on that one.
Yeah. But what we're going to try and do is that if we have a really comfortable win tomorrow, if we're 2 or 3-0 up, I'm going to actually try and get them to change it to the second leg of the semi-final, which I think is around the 8th of May, because we'll be guaranteed to be at home for the second leg of that as well. And you know what I mean? And we'll have tickets and then just get rid of the West Ham one. So that's the plan, hopefully, if we have a convincing win tomorrow.
What do you think, Osimhen? You got a score prediction?
I'm thinking 3-1. 3-1. I still can't see us keeping clean sheet. Still can't see us keeping clean sheet. It's a 3-1.
I'll go 3-0 then.
3-0.
The shot. That's the shot.
Oh, no, last minute.
Yeah, go on, Chris. Give us yours.
I'm going to go 2-1.
2-1, right, and I'm going to go 3-1 as well. So there we go. Lads, I appreciate you coming on as always, and I'm sure you'll be around tomorrow night as well for the watch along. We will be live tomorrow from 7:30 as always. But thanks for watching as well, guys. Please do smash a like in the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and if you're listening back on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, 5-star reviews all around if you can, and hit the follow button as well. But thanks for watching, guys. I'll chat to you tomorrow for the watch along, and I will have the match preview up around lunchtime as well. So thanks for watching, and I'll chat to you tomorrow. Take it easy.
We'll see you guys.